We're joined now by Ebun-Olu Adegboruwa, a legal practitioner and rights activist. Now we're going to look ahead and what do we expect, or what is the government expected to do, perhaps beyond May 29. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
It looks as if the agenda is set in itself, because there's so many things just happening in the country, and you think, okay, well, yes, they have to, note this in their checkbook or checklist, also note this and see these are the kind of things we expect. But you've also been monitoring. What do you think we should, or what kind of things should we or the government be approaching or rank topmost in their scale of preference when they take over the helm of affairs?
Well, good enough, the person at the helm of affairs, General Muhammadu Buhari, has been at this game for 16 years, right from 2003, 2007, 2011, and he's finally hit it in 2015. So it's not a strange thing to him. He already has within his portfolio a mindset of why he wanted for the past 16 years to rule this country. And he's done that in what he called my covenant with Nigeria for the first 100 days. Before this election, on March 7, he came out with that agenda, and it's very comprehensive that in the first 100 days, his major priority will be that he would like to set up a campaign team against corruption. It's so cardinal. And I think that's topmost for us. Because once we can stop the leakages, once we can allow the Commonwealth to be available to implement projects, the interests of the common good will be taken care of. And that spills across all sectors of our economy, to power, to education, to infrastructure, to aviation, to education, everything. So I think that the major thing that Nigerians probably expect from this government, because this election had to do with credibility, had to do with integrity, had to do with the personality of the vice president, of the president-elect and his vice. And I think so getting to power will be that we will stop the leakages. Secondly, from that 100 days covenant with the people of Nigeria is the power sector. And I took time out to also check the manifesto of the All Progressive Congress on the platform through which the president climbed to power. Through the covenant of 100 days and manifesto of APC, we recognize that Nigeria generates averagely 5,000 to 6,000 megawatts presently. So the president-elect and the APC have vowed that in the next 4 years, between now and December 2017, we will get at least additional 20,000 megawatts. And then that will increase such that in the next 10 years, we'll have 50,000. And Nigeria can have 24/7 electricity. That is basic to every sector of this economy, of this country. That power generation is killing our economy, is killing our lives. And so after corruption will come power. It's so critical now that barbers must have the opportunity to run their business without getting a pass my neighbor. You just saw recently at the Mama Kontagora house, the fire incident that happened. The investigation revealed that it started from the third floor through a diesel generator and almost burned down that building. That's just an incident. So every sector in this country now runs on generator. I generate power myself to some extent. 45 kVA to run diesel when I have visitors, 10 kVA to sleep in the night with my children when we're alone, and then another 8 kVA for children to play when they're alone at home. And I run the same in the office. And I'm just an individual. So I can imagine what channels is going through. You can imagine what other newsroom, churches, banks, educational institutions. So the money we are spending on power generation is so huge that if we are able to tackle that, we can take it back into the economy. Good enough, the APC is at the center of the government now. And that means that they have control of majority of the states. So the clashes that used to exist before in respect of power generation used to be that of political victimization. Lagos State came with Aaron, they wouldn't allow it to work. So they said, look, there's politics involved. Now that everything is streamlined, it's important that within now and December 2016, Nigerians should have at least 18 hours per day
Well, that's for Lagos, because you live in Lagos. You're talking about the Iron and talking about the Eco project for electricity here. But if you look at it, time was when the PDP had majority of the states, and still the issue of power didn't work. Try to juxtapose that with the dealers who are in the sector, who have been able to sell to yourself, to other Nigerians, their generators, and you put that to the fight against corruption, which he said, well, in his first 100 days, he's going to put in place, a structure that will embark on a massive fight against corruption. Do you think with those big investors in the power sector, not investors trying to give us electricity, but investors who sell alternative means of electricity to us, would allow his effort whatsoever fly?
Well, let me just give you an instance. And I thank God for Governor Babatunde Fashola for the brilliance that he has brought into leadership. In Lagos State, they took over this issue of captive power generation. That is, it is possible for Chinese television to get license to generate power for the purpose of running this outfit, if it wants to, through the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. So there is this Lekki independent power plant, and the governor was there and said, I have generated enough power that will power all the street lights in Lekki, all the public infrastructure, water, the court system, the hospitals, but I'm not allowed to give this power to individuals. I'm not allowed to translate this power to homes of individuals. If I want to do that, I should first transfer the power to Eco Disco, and then Eco Disco will inject it into the national grid. From there, it can travel to Sokoto. From there, it can travel to Oshogbo. From there, it can travel to Delta. If there is an assurance that I will be allowed to distribute this electricity to people that needs it, in 8 months, all of you in Lekki can have electricity. And as I speak to you, as I sit here, day and night, there is electricity in all the streets of Lekki. So it's not a matter of engaging in battles with generator producers, generator importers, or those who are selling recharge lamps and candles. If the government has the will, and that's what the president-elect has said, he said, I will put myself first as an example, and I will tolerate no favorites. I will have a zero tolerance for favoritism. I want everything to go according to law. So if he has that will and is able to implement the electricity regulation in Nigeria to the extent that we do it like we did for GSM, we don't need to tell stories for generator importers to pack up and team up. So we don't need a fight with them. As long as those laws are made to be applicable and available for all those who want to invest in those products without any political undertone.
In fact,
these people will pack up.
They can diversify their businesses rather than pack up.
And get involved in power generation.
So that may be a viable option.
Oh yes, so I think that what we have needed all the while is a matter of political will and the leadership that is transparent. To be able to say, if I give this right to Akwa Ibom State to produce electricity, I will give it to Lagos State. I will give it to Akwa Ibom State. I will give it to Edo State. I will give it to Sokoto State. In the Redeemed Christian Church of God, where I worship, we have captive electricity. I have a generator in the redemption camp that has not worked for almost a year. And each time I go there, the battery is run down because electricity is 24 hours. In a simple church. And how is Pastor Adegboruwa able to do that? By working with people within his own committee. And for the past 3 years, Chamberlain, there's been electricity in the redemption camp.
So the hindrance has always been the law.
The law and the will by the leaders to be able to have the courage to implement it. There will be electricity all over. Local governments can generate.
I'm happy you're a lawyer. The law, is it to punish or to help streamline and make things easy for people?
Well, and that's part of the agenda for the new regime. Law is blind. When you apply law to A, it must be applicable to B. You don't sing a different tune when you implement law for a certain set of people and it comes another set, you say something different. Look, Professor Oshibajo is somebody that we know in this country with all integrity and respect. He was in Lagos State for 8 years and transformed the judiciary. So the agenda for this particular government in fighting corruption, for instance, would be to implement that template that assisted him to transform the judiciary in Lagos State by taking it across the land. We have a criminal code that is as old as 1945. That is still talking about imposing fine of 20 naira, 20 kobo in a country where we're fighting cybercrime. So we need a holistic approach that will allow this coming government to sit down and look at administration of justice. Because you can't fight corruption without having an efficient court system.
Is it possible for them for the criminal code and the penal code to be merged?
No, I don't think so. And the reason is because we must recognize the diversity in our land. The criminal code is implemented to address the sensitivity of the northern part of the country in terms of their culture, in terms of religion. And whereas the criminal code, for instance, is an instrument that came from England, which we imported through the British colonial system, whereas the penal code is from Sudan. So you cannot match both of them because they serve different purposes. And so, but the important thing is that as at now, those laws, either the penal code or the criminal code, are archaic. They do not address technology. They do not address Yahoo people. They do not address matters that have come in public glare, like lesbians, like gay people, and have to address this to ensure that the law comes up with modern challenges of prosecution. So that is an agenda.
Even social media.
Oh yes, especially social media. So when you take corruption, when you take power, we then go to the issue of job creation, because it's important. We're just talking about xenophobic attacks in South Africa. It's already happening in Ghana. There's a lot of hate going on against businessmen and professionals in Ghana. In Nigeria here, like I was telling you before we came to the studio, Indians and Chinese people have taken over all our jobs. Welders and carpenters and bricklayers are in trouble. So we need to get, as according to the manifesto of APC and the president-elect, now for every year there will be 1 million jobs created for all Nigerians. For every year there will be a minimum of 2 million houses that will be built for people to have access. So it's not as if we are meeting a government that is new or in the saddle. They have an agenda. Our own is to wait, and we are waiting, because we must let this government know that we can't take it to the level of propaganda and say, I didn't say that I will make $1 to 1 naira. I didn't say that I will bring back keyboard guests. We don't need those stories. We know the agenda of APC. We know the agenda of the president-elect. We'll give them time. As they come to take over power, restructure their cabinet, search for credible technocrats and people with integrity to run the government. By December 2015, this year,
right,
I should be talking about minimum of 15 hours of electricity.
Okay.